Okay, so we are a couple of minutes past the hour, so I think we'll get going. So hello everyone, a warm welcome and a big thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar today. I'm Faisal and I'm joined by my colleague Toms. We're both part of the customer success team here at NC Squared, and we're thrilled to guide you through to today's session, which focuses on how you can get the best leads to your top performing reps, helping them hit targets, maximizing revenue, and taking the emotion out of making data-driven decisions. Today, we're diving into performance-based distribution, a strategy that provides your team members with a clear understanding of success whilst incentivizing top performers. So this approach is centered around two essential elements: defining performance metrics and making data-driven decisions by consistently evaluating your team's performance. However, implementing this method manually can be challenging and time-consuming. So join us as we explore how you can seamlessly achieve performance-based distribution with DE. Just a bit of housekeeping first. This is a one-way webinar, so we're the only ones on camera and audio, including any recording. If you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to do so using the chat or question panels, and we'll get back to you offline with the answers as soon as we can. So to today's agenda, I'll kick off with an overview of business needs and how DE with performance-based routing tools can help. Toms will then take you through each of these in more detail, and we'll finish with a summary and wrap up. In today's dynamic business environment, RevOps team leads face various challenges when it comes to performance-based routing, from the constant pressure to meet conversion targets to the urgent need for rapid lead response times. Yet, amongst these demands, there is often a lack of clarity on motivating team members effectively and making data-driven decisions without bias or guesswork. Often, the lack of visibility into team performance metrics makes it difficult to identify top performers and allocate leads accordingly, resulting in missed opportunities and revenue loss. This underscores the critical need for streamlined technology-driven solutions that automate routing based on real-time performance data, so easing the burden on teams and maximizing their productivity. Now, in every organization, the definition of good performance varies widely, whether it's conversion rates, speed to lead, total deal value, or a blend of metrics. Each organization has its unique set of key performance indicators. So the questions are, how can I motivate my team to achieve success? And how can I take the emotion out of making data-driven decisions and let the technology determine what's routed to each team member based on how well they're performing, and then also back this up with monitoring, reporting, and analytics. To address this diversity, we have a set of features in Distribution Engine which will help. Firstly, we have our custom classification feature. Now, this lets you stamp records based on your own criteria. So, for example, identify your highest priority leads based on a combination of fields and stamp them with the high priority stamp. Through our tags, you can sort your team members into tiers, let's say top performers, regular performers, or trainees. Then moving forward, you can leverage these performance tags through your DE logic and setup, applying weighting to distribute premium work to top performers and adjusting workflows to accommodate different performance levels. And then finally, our performance page in DE empowers you to customize and select metrics that matter most to your organization. So once you've defined your performance metrics and sorted your team members accordingly by utilizing tags directly from the performance page in DE, you have a centralized space to monitor and adjust performance attributes as needed. Now, with one dedicated page, you can easily track and monitor your team's performance tailored to your specific use cases. Let's take a closer look at each of these features in turn. So let me hand you over to Toms, who'll start by showing you how you can categorize your records and team members. So over to you, Toms.
Thank you, Faisal, and hello, everyone. Performance-based distribution is a great motivator for your team members to achieve more. For example, as Faisal said, you can give your top performers higher value leads or a larger share of the overall volume. If you make the process transparent, your middle performers and trainees get a clear understanding of expectations as well. The first part of automating this with DE is to categorize things. Today, we'll begin by looking at how to categorize your records with custom classification and team members by using tags. Later, we'll look at how to reference these categories in the rest of your DE setup and how to use this together with our improved performance page. So let's dive in. Let's start with custom classification. Custom classification stamps records based on some criteria. You will find custom classification here under the Distribution Classifier tab. And let's select stamp groups. For this example, I'd like to categorize my records into 3 categories based on the annual revenue of the lead. I'm going to have priority 1, those are leads that are above 500,000 in value. Priority 2, those are between 100 and 500,000. And then priority 3 for everything else below that. Let's start by creating a new stamp group and selecting the record which it applies to, lead in my example. Next, we give it a name, priority, and select if one record can be stamped with a single stamp from this group or multiple. A record can only be one priority at a time, so I'll select single. Now the stamp group is created. Let's add the stamps. Priority 1 is my most premium leads. With the filters here, we can select which records this applies to. I'll select the annual revenue field and greater than 500,000. I could also add other fields here, for example, industry. Let's create this stamp. Let's follow the same process to create the priority 2 stamp. Let's give it a name and select the filter above 100,000 and create the stamp. And finally, let's create the priority 3 stamp, which we will set up as the default stamp, meaning that if it does not fit the filters of either of the other 2 stamps, this stamp will be applied. So to recap, the classifier will now stamp my incoming leads with either priority 1, 2, or 3 based on the annual revenue of the lead. Next, let's look at how to categorize our team members. For this, I'll be using tags. I want to sort my team members into 3 categories: trainee, regular performer, and top performer. To do this, I'll create a tag collection and call it performance level. And add 3 tags: trainee, regular performer, and top performer. And create the tag collection. You can assign the tags to your team members from here. You might want to do this from here initially when you first set these up. Later in the webinar, we'll look at how to do this directly from the performance page itself, anytime you need to evaluate the performance level of a team member and update their tag. To recap, we used custom classification to create a priority stamp group, which will categorize our records into 3 categories based on the annual revenue field. We also created a performance level tag collection and a tag for each of our performance levels.
Thank you, Toms, for that great overview of our custom classification feature and how we can prioritize records and categorize team members using our tags feature. So next, let's take a look at how we can configure the distribution logic in DE. So showing you how you can, for example, route premium leads to your top performers and how to set up weighting based on team member categorization. So back to you, Toms.
Thank you. There are a couple of ways how we can take the different attributes of the user or the record and include them in our DE setup to help automate the right record landing with the right rep. For this example, we'll use the attributes we created in the earlier step, lead priority and rep experience level. So let's have a look at how to use these in your distribution logic in DE. Let's start with distributors. Here, I have my hot leads distributor. This is for my most premium leads that should only be distributed to my top performers. So how do I set this up? I'll leave the method as round robin. I want my premium leads to be distributed fairly across the top performers. All my leads live in one queue, so I have the source as lead queue. Next is where the attributes from earlier come into play. Here I have the filters that determine what type of leads this distributor is distributing. I could select the fields that I have on the lead and filter based on them, but there's a better way. I can use the stamp from custom classification we created earlier. To do this, I select the DE stamp group from this dropdown, then select the priority stamp group we created earlier, and the operator equals for this example. And finally, the stamp itself, priority 1. So what this means is that this distributor will only pick up the leads that have been stamped with the priority 1 stamp. So you don't have to add the different fields in here, and if the definition of priority 1 ever changes, you only need to update it in the classifier, not every distributor. Next, let's look at how to send these priority 1 leads to our top performers. Down here, we have the team member filter, where we'll filter the users that this distributor can distribute to. We'll use tags for this example. Tags allow us to create a dynamic and scalable solution. I'll select the by tags option, static, and select the tag collection we created earlier, called performance level. Operator includes, and then the tag. This should be the performance level that should receive these premium priority 1 leads, the top performer for this example, and save. So what this setup means is that the leads that have been stamped with a priority 1 stamp, so above value 500,000, will be distributed to the team members with the top performer tag. You can follow the same process to define the 2 other groups. For example, your priority 2 leads could be distributed among the top and regular performers, and maybe your priority 3 leads only go to your trainees while they ramp up. Next, we'll have a look at how to use the performance level tags in weighting. Weighting determines how many records a team member receives when compared to another team member. For example, team member A could receive twice as many leads as team member B. When you first get started with weighting, you will see this view where you can adjust weighting for each team member individually. This is okay at the beginning, but you will soon find that it gets more difficult at a larger scale. There's a way to make this easier and connect weighting with the performance tags we defined earlier. To do this, I'll click the Switch to Tag Weighting link here. Next, I'll select the performance level tag collection and select the 3 tags from this collection. What I can do now is I can give each of the tags their own weighting. For example, I want to reduce the amount of leads my trainees are receiving, so I'll dial them down to 0.5. I'll leave my regular performers at 1 and increase the weighting for top performers to 1.5. What this means is that my top performers will receive the most leads, and trainees will receive the lowest amount of leads of all the users here. And instead of needing to give weighting to each individual user, I'm using the performance tag collection to assign the weight to that user.
Thank you, Thomas, for running through how we can easily configure distribution logic and get those high quality leads over to your best performers. We'll finish off by showing you our performance page and how in our latest release, you can now define your own custom performance criteria and metrics. Here you can track your team's performance and effortlessly adjust that according to your specific needs and use cases. So I'll hand you over to Toms for one final time to take you through this. Toms.
Thank you. Performance data isn't always easy to define, find, and keep up to date. Some organizations do this manually, which is time-consuming and error-prone, and your team members want transparency, which is also not always easy to provide. The performance page in DE allows you to automate the monitoring and makes managing a performance-based routing setup a lot easier. There are two parts to this process. Part 1 is selecting and monitoring the metrics, and Part 2, making decisions based on these metrics for performance-driven distribution. For example, using the attributes we looked at earlier, adjust the performance tag of a user who's achieved their performance goals to move them from the regular performer to the top performer category. So now they will receive the premium priority 1 leads we defined in the first video. So let's have a closer look at the new performance page in DE.
There are two parts to the new performance page. Part 1, selecting and monitoring the metrics. And Part 2, making decisions based on these metrics for performance-driven distribution. This page will look different for everyone, as now you can create your own custom metrics that are displayed here in these columns. Here, we see a list of metrics I have chosen to display for my example. Let's have a closer look at the available configuration options. Select the Configure Metrics option from the 3-dot menu here. First, you can choose to display one of the predefined options we have created for you. Some examples are conversion rates for leads or close rates for cases, distribution fidelity, hours worked, records distributed, hours available, reassignments, and time to action. For my example, I've selected the hours worked, records assigned, and conversion rates. You now also have the option to create your own custom metrics. For example, I want to know the average annual revenue of leads my team members received. To do this, I've selected the custom and selected the relevant field. Annual revenue is a field I have populated on the lead in my org. You will see the fields in your org in this drop-down here. Next, select the operator. These include min, max, average, and sum. I'll choose average. Here, I have another custom metric, average number of employees. Again, I've selected custom, the relevant field from my org, and the operator. You also have the option to see metrics for specific types of records only. For example, I want to see metrics for my priority 1 leads only. The next configuration option is to manage performance tags. For example, if your distribution logic is based on team member performance, with different groups of users receiving a different share of available records, in that case, these users can be grouped by tags, which you can display on the performance page for easy performance management. You can have up to 3 tag collections selected. The options here are none. No tag collections will be displayed. Weighting and caps will show the tag collections you use in your weighting and caps setup. Or custom lets you choose which tag collections you want to display. The last configuration option is to download performance data. This will download a CSV file of the performance data displayed. The next step is to monitor these performance metrics and make decisions based on them. For example, Casey on my team has exceeded all expectations and converted a lot of leads last month. I'd like Casey to start receiving more premium leads from now on. If I click in the row, a side panel opens. From here, I can manage the performance tags for this user. In my distribution logic, this requires Casey to have the top performance tag from the performance level tag collection. This is a tag collection I have created and is specific to my setup. You can also update tags for multiple team members at once by selecting them and using this Assign Tags button here. Now, putting it all together, you have one dedicated place to manage your performance-driven distribution.
Thank you, Toms, for doing a great job of running through those features. So let's recap what we've learned today. So in today's webinar, we explored the challenges faced by RevOps team leads with performance-based lead routing. So the landscape is complex, from meeting conversion targets to ensuring rapid lead response times. The key lies in motivating teams effectively and making unbiased data-driven decisions amid a multitude of performance metrics. This underscores the critical need for technology-driven solutions like Distribution Engine, automating routing based on real-time performance data. In wrapping up, Distribution Engine is here to help transform your lead routing processes through features such as custom classification and performance page enhancements. We enable organizations to categorize records based on specific criteria and tailor performance metrics to their individual requirements. By seamlessly integrating tags and performance metrics within the Distribution Engine platform, teams can achieve unmatched efficiency, transparency, and productivity. So let's join forces on a journey where our technology-driven solutions drive improved performance and organizational success. All that remains is for me to say a big thank you to all of you for joining us today and for being our customers. We appreciate your time and look forward to helping you unlock the full potential of all of the features we've shown you today. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about how NC Squared can help you with your requirements, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at support@nc-squared.com. From Toms and I, we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you all.